There she is walking in right there. No sound. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. There's also this entire red carpet situation. Let me just find it here, and we will right here.
Caitlin Clark is dominating the conversation again, and this time it has nothing to do with a basketball game. She was tapped to serve as Grand Marshal for the Indianapolis 500, the biggest race on the calendar outside of Daytona, and her presence there sent the internet into a frenzy. Videos and photos from the event spread rapidly, showing just how much weight her appearance carried at one of motorsport's most iconic stages. Footage captured her arrival at the venue, moving through a full red carpet setup, with crowds reacting visibly and loudly around her. The energy in the clips was hard to miss.
Caitlin Clark's in full takeover mode. I mean, hey, you didn't believe the people that seemed like come out for Caitlin Clark here. Caitlin has arrived at the Indy 500, another angle, red carpet action. Oh, shit. People are realizing, oh, Caitlin's up here.
People were genuinely stunned to see her there in person, with reactions ranging from excitement to flat-out disbelief. The scenes looked less like a celebrity cameo and more like a full-scale takeover of the event's atmosphere. Clark posted her own video from the grounds, mentioning it was her first time attending the race, and that she was thrilled to be there. Given the reception she received, it is safe to say it will not be her last visit. The moment that drew particular attention was her delivering the iconic command, "Drivers to your cars," to kick off the race officially.
That's crazy. That's awesome. Really cool. Caitlin Clark takeover at the Indy 500. Let's just keep going. Here's Caitlin Clark right here on location.
Hey, it's Caitlin. I'm here at the Indy 500 with all my friends.
Even with the audio being low in some of the circulating clips, the significance of the moment came through clearly. What makes Clark's cultural reach so striking is that it operates completely separately from her on-court performance. On the court, she was already putting up the kind of numbers: points, assists, playmaking at every level that place her among the most dangerous offensive players in the league. She has made clear that her approach is built around being the engine of the offense, dictating pace and setting up the entire system around her movement and vision. Off the court, that same gravity pulls people in, whether there is a basketball involved or not.
I'm here at the Indy 500 with all my friends. Excited to be here for the first time. Hey, it's Caitlin. I'm here at the Indy 500 with all my friends. Excited to be here for the first time.
First time. Won't be the last time. Let's be real. Won't be the last time. Yes, drivers to your cars. Let's see if we can actually hear this. I think the audio's kind of low, but it's cool. Yeah, you can't hear it, but there she is right there.
The Indy 500 appearance only reinforced that her presence has grown well beyond the sport itself. The matchup between Caitlin Clark and Tiffany Hayes delivered exactly the kind of old-fashioned of competitive intensity that makes basketball worth watching. Two players who clearly bring out something extra in each other, going back and forth across a full game. No blindside attacks, no cheap shots, just genuine on-court rivalry. The online noise surrounding the WNBA, including threads with suggestions as extreme as deliberately injuring Clark, belongs in a completely different category from what actually played out on the floor. What happened between Clark and Hayes was competitive basketball, nothing more.
Okay, we did hear that. Drivers to your cars. That's cool. That's cool. Drivers to your cars. That's awesome. Let's come over here. Here we are, right here. We got other footage of that exact same thing.
Drivers to your cars. Drivers to your cars.
Hayes was physical throughout the game. She fouled Clark repeatedly, and to be fair, Clark did benefit from more push-off calls than usual, though there's a certain logic to that. When officials allow defenders to maul a ball handler, they tend to give the offensive player more latitude to create separation. Clark's push-offs are largely habitual rather than tactical, which actually makes the frequency of calls against her in other games more frustrating.
Drivers to your cars.
Wow, there's a lot of people there. There is a lot of folks in there, let me tell you. And we come back around. So, pretty cool. Caitlin Clark showing up, going viral, doing what she does best, going viral. Going viral. And it's not because she's knocking down 25, 12, and 5, which
She rarely gains a meaningful advantage from them, yet still draws the whistle. Hayes had genuine moments of brilliance, an early step. Back three over Clark was a legitimate skill play. Clean footwork, clean release, earned bucket. She got into Clark's space throughout, talked her game, and played with the kind of edge that made the rivalry feel real.
12 and 5, which she could do. Guys, she's dominating. I mean, right now, she's dominating. It is amazing. She has decided, I'm playing my brand of basketball. I'm going to be the playmaker. Get out of my way. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.
Acknowledging that is necessary context. The headline of the game isn't that Hayes got embarrassed. She had her moments and played well. What ultimately shifted the narrative was Clark's response. After Hayes scored and got in her face, Clark went the other direction and answered, drilling a shot back in Hayes' face and engaging right back.
After the game,
she would never get to play in games.
if they're going to start calling fouls in there, she would never get playing games. Tip Hayes hacked the shit out of Caitlin. In the defense of Caitlin did get away with more push-offs today than she normally does. But as a referee, if you're going to let her get mauled, you have to allow the push-off. That's what I was saying at the start of the year when Caitlin was getting called for the offensive fouls and push-offs. I'm like, if the referees are going to call people for hand check.
That exchange and the energy Clark brought from that point forward is the version of her game that tends to produce the best results. When Clark takes something personally and locks in with that competitive edge, she operates at a noticeably higher level than when the game feels routine to her. Misha Hines, Allen's, was again evident when the chirping threatened to escalate. Not to start anything, but to make sure nothing developed beyond words.
Like, if the referees are going to call people for hand checking you at the halfway line, then obviously you can't push off. And I think Caitlin doesn't even get separation of the push-offs. It's actually frustrating. It really, really frustrates me in general when it comes down to Caitlin with the push-offs, because I'm like, she actually doesn't get anything from the push-offs. She does it out of habit. That is the most frustrating thing about it, is that like she does it out of habit. But like,
That kind of intervention keeps a star player out of trouble without requiring any actual confrontation. The flagrant foul called on Clark during the game was widely regarded as an extremely weak call, given the overall physicality of the matchup. Clark ended the game with 5 technical-related penalties, which tells its own story about how emotionally invested she was in the contest. Hayes, for her part, has an interesting public profile in WNBA circles.
does it out of habit. But like, Caitlin Clark obviously getting into it immediately through this whole game. Like they were already getting into it a little bit. Tip Hayes was cooking Caitlin. This was a like old fashioned 2 players going at each other. Pure basketball shit talk. Like, this is what you want to see. So Tip Hayes is trying to guard Caitlin. Boom. Caitlin, easy. I don't know what she's calling for. Caitlin got hacked before that, by the way. There's no contact there at all. But like immediately, Caitlin Clark from the
She has long been one of the more polarizing players among the league's established fan base. Known as much for flopping as for her actual skill, the irony wasn't lost on observers that some of her most vocal critics suddenly found reasons to celebrate her once she was seen as getting the better of Clark in individual exchanges. Hayes actually came out of retirement several years ago and has reportedly earned more since returning than she did across her entire earlier career. Her post-game activity on social media, blocking accounts at a noticeable pace, added a layer of humor to the aftermath.
Caitlin Clark from the logo here. Tip Hayes, I think, had scored in the previous possession. Caitlin Clark goes into that, and you see Tip Hayes during this. Look, watch Tip Hayes. She immediately makes contact with her. That could have been, like, I don't think it should have been. She had already landed, but like, I'm sorry, the bump there, that could have been a rebounding foul. That could have, and in the WNBA, that's an and one. In Europe, that's not an and one. In Europe, that's not an and one if you foul somebody after the shot. But in
Clark, meanwhile, dedicated her performance to someone named Kate, which added a personal dimension to an already charged game. The comparison to the Wembanyama Holmgren dynamic in the NBA is worth drawing here. That rivalry, rooted in a U19 World Cup result that Wembanyama felt should have gone differently, is celebrated as the kind of authentic competitive tension that makes sport interesting. 2 elite players with genuine motivation to beat each other produces better basketball.
In the WNBA, that absolutely could have been, and probably should have been, an and one, given the way they've been calling, given the way they tend to call that play. That being said, we got to give credit where credit's due to Caitlin Clark, because this is where you're like, okay, yeah, this is a fucking demon. This is the player that we wanted to see. Washington woke it up, but
the Clark-Hayes exchange fits that same mold. Hayes pissed off Clark by hitting a big shot, doing a gesture, and getting in her face. Clark responded by winning. That is the cleanest version of how competition is supposed to work.
But Caitlin, you like that? Get out of my face! Come on, get it! And Mai Shines Allen immediately steps in to stop anything from happening. Like, this is a big thing. Like, Caitlin absolutely cooking Tip Hayes. That being said, to act like Tip Hayes didn't cook Caitlin with that step back earlier on in the game. Like, Tip Hayes absolutely cooked Caitlin. Absolutely cooked Caitlin here. And like, I gotta say, like, we're not gonna pretend that Tip Hayes didn't get hers. Caitlin won the game in the end, but Tip Hayes absolutely got hers. So but yeah, This was a big game. This was a big game. And honestly, when it comes to Tiffany Hayes, this is kind of what you want in a big game. And honestly, when it comes to Tiffany Hayes, this is kind of what you want to see from Caitlin Clark. But this was like, this is just this. It was disrespect from Tiffany Hayes. She was getting in Caitlin Clark's face. She was talking shit. The whole team were. Not sure what Tibbay's on, but Caitlin Clark got 5 techs flagrant. And yeah, she got the most nonsense flagrant foul I've ever seen. The most nonsense flagrant foul. But yeah, Caitlin Clark's no longer shall bringing back Iowa Caitlin. Tip Hayes, you're famous now. Like, I don't think people understand. Like, Tip Hayes is known as being a flopper.